Associate who is featuring this summer. We're doing Game of Thrones. My name is Jennifer Harris. I'm the library director, and I'd like to thank everyone who is attending tonight. We have a nice turnout. We're planning to have a lively discussion. We are asking people if they want to interact with us, please send us a message. Tom, who's running our live streaming part, he'll be watching for any responses. But before we get started, I wanted everyone to know that we have this wonderful handout this summer that features all of our summer reading program. So if you are interested and have not received one of these, stop by the library. We have tons of them in the front foyer. Come in and ask anyone. We will be happy to assist you. We still have some free copies of Game of Thrones that if you would like to sign up for the summer reading, you go online to plymouthpubliclibrary.org. We are also excitingly featuring the book Victoria by Daisy Goodwin. We thought that some people might like one, some might like another, or some might like both. For the summer reading, go online featuring the book Victoria by Daisy Goodwin.
We have a delay.
How do you mute me? We good? So at this point, I want to turn the program over to Kate. Well, let's go for it, kid.
All right, so welcome to our History of Westeros program. So I thought it would be helpful for not just myself, but maybe other people to review some of this lore and backstory and just annals of history associated with A Song of Ice and Fire, because there is a lot of backstory. And one of the things that happened when I was researching, I was trying to think, what would people like to hear about? What would people like to know about? And I decided that I wanted to research something that I had always wanted to know about. So I'm going to start with that, which is I wanted to know the background history of the song The Rains of Castamere, because I know it's a Lannister song, and it's played when they're feeling victorious, or they sing it before they go into battle. And I knew it was something that was written to appease Tywin Lannister's pride. You know, it was something that was boastful of his accomplishments, but I didn't know what the backstory for that was. So for anybody who doesn't know The Rains of Castamere, the lyrics go, "But who are you, the proud lord said, that I must bow so low? Only a cat of a different coat." So I didn't know who were the cats. So it turns out the Rains is a pun. So it's rain as in the weather, but also Rains as in the last name, Reynes. And the Rains lived in Castamere, which was one of the castles that was beholden to the Lannisters of Casterly Rock. And so what happened was Tytos, Tywin's father, was seen as a very weak ruler, and he was loaning out all this money to his vassals and not letting them pay it back. So a bunch of his underlords really owed him a lot of money, owed him a lot of debt, and they looked at him as being a very weak leader because he wasn't collecting on these loans. And he also had a problem with a former sister-in-law who was a Rain, who she was very ambitious, and she wanted to marry into the Lannister family. And when that wasn't successful, when she couldn't be the Lady of the Rock, she became a Tarbeck instead. And the Tarbecks were one of the main people who borrow money from Lannisters. You know, Tytos was also seen as weak because he did a lot of things like he married his eldest daughter to the eldest son of Walder Frey, or not even the eldest son, the second son of Walder Frey, which, as most of us know, the Freys are not a very powerful family, so that's not a very advantageous match for a house of such noble lineage as the Lannisters. You know, she could have been a prince's wife, or married to another great house like the Aarons or the Starks, but instead she was given to a second son, not even the heir to the twins. So, he wasn't a very well respected leader. But the people who laughed at Tytos, the people who thought he was weak, they didn't take into account his son Tywin, who, if you watch the show or read the books, you know that Tywin Lannister is a bit of a schemer, a bit of a mastermind. He likes to have power. He likes to hold on to power, and he's no one to be trifled with. well, the Rains of Castamere are about to find that out. So Tywin, when he came back from one of the Blackfire Rebellion wars, he decided that it was time for him to collect on these debts. And the Rains and the Tarbecks, they didn't want to pay, and they thought, Tywin's not really in charge, Tytos is, so we're not going to pay, and that's that. And instead of it going peacefully, because it never does with Tywin, the Lord of Tarbeck went to Casterly Rock to try to parlay with Tytos, and instead Tywin imprisoned him. And in response, Ellen Rain, then married to the Lord Tarbeck, she captured 3 different Lannisters and put them in her dungeons, and said that if you don't return my husband, I'm going to put these Lannisters to death. And Tywin said to his father, well, we should send her husband back in 3 different pieces, a piece each for each Lannister that she took. It didn't go down like that. They exchanged their hostages, and for a while everything was fine. Except Tywin wasn't happy. He wasn't satisfied. He hadn't gotten paid, and he felt insulted, and he needed to have a show of force. So he demanded the Tarbecks and the Rains report to Casterly Rock to answer for the crimes committed against the House of Lannister. Of course they didn't, and instead they rose up in rebellion against them. Tywin had anticipated that this would be their response and had already started marching out on the Tarbecks. He took them by surprise, wiped out the House of Tarbeck. So the Rains, who were injured in that fight but not defeated, retreated to Castamere. Now Castamere was a very rich stronghold. It was built on silver and gold mines, where they got all their wealth from. And over the centuries, they had depleted their mine, but they built their fortress underground. So if you went to see Castamere, it would look like a very kind of humble lower lord's house. And instead, there were these rooms and ballrooms and chambers in this vast underground society from where they had hollowed out their mines. So they retreated underground. Tywin had his people kind of bury them in there. So he stoned up their walls, and then they diverted a stream to fill their underground cavernous rooms, and they set fire to the castle above. So he drowned out about 300 men and children who were part of the Rain clan, and the whole family was wiped out. The whole holding was wiped out. And so now the Rains fall over their halls with no one left to hear, because the family is no more. So that's the story of the Rains of Castamere.
Can I ask a really stupid question?
Sure can.
Where did you find all that information?
Okay, so
That's not stupid.
that's a great question.
No questions are
Well, because
stupid.
I didn't read the books, right?
Right.
I'm a movie watcher,
Right.
a TV watcher. So that, that's all like complete Greek to me.
So it's complete Greek to a lot
Very
of
well done.
Very well.
Very well done.
Thank you. So it's Greek to a lot of people, though, because it's not necessarily
book,
all in the original text.
Okay.
Some of this is backstory that you find in this, which was written by George R.R. Martin with some of his fans.
Okay.
And this is a complete history of A Song of Ice and Fire, or about as complete a history as you're ever going to find. And it's just page after page.
And when was that published?
This was published in, not that long ago, it was after Dance of Dragons, 2014. So Dance with Dragons was published in 2011. This was published 3 years afterwards.
Wow, okay.
So, so I found some of it there, but I also found it in here because there is a wiki of Ice and Fire where the fandom curates all this information and sets it up in its own special Wikipedia. And so that's why I have it.
Incredible.
I have it queued
Have
up
you
here.
contributed? Has anyone contributed?
No.
No?
Not me.
No.
No, yeah, I'm a user, not a contributor. So I do have it queued up here in case anybody asks me a question to which I do not have an answer. I will find the answer for you.
The fans have
That's,
curated
we're a
this
we're a
information.
library, so that's what we do.
So if you were to take this, where is the Rain?
Okay, so this is Lannister right here,
Yes.
down here, and the Rains were slightly north of them. They were still, so here's Lannisport. So it's not quite River Run, but slightly to the north of Lannisport.
All right.
So that's
so when you're referring to the Reigns of Castamere as the music,
Yes.
is that in the HBO series?
okay. So it's very well featured in the books. I'm kind of trying to keep this particular program a little bit spoiler free. I know you guys probably know where it is featured though, right, in the show. And so it's featured at a pivotal moment in the show.
The first season?
No,
Okay.
it is in the second season though.
See, I'm good at mining this.
And it's good. It's featured pretty predominantly in the third season, and it's in the books. It's not in the first book, so you probably won't read it in here.
Okay.
I think you might see it in the second book, maybe, but you definitely see it in the third book.
Okay. All right. Aren't you ever hopeful? Well, I'll be reading is it 5 books? We're waiting for the 6th, or the 6th is out?
We're waiting for the 6th. And I actually remember when I first approached you about this program, which was about a year ago. Mm-hmm. And I said, and who knows, maybe we'll have a 6th book by then. And you're like, that book's never coming out.
Well, I saw
that stayed with me. It wounded me.
I saw George R. Martin interviewed on, it must have been Stephen Colbert or someone, and he looks exactly like he should be in The Hobbit writing this. And just the ponderous way that he would answer a question, you go, no wonder it's taking so long, because I know they had planned it for the spring.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
And they have another book beyond that.
Yeah, so it's The Winds of Winter, and then it's supposed to follow up with A Dream of Spring. Hopefully, we'll keep it at 7, and it won't be a surprise 8th. Or maybe we hope for a surprise 8th. Who knows? We just hope for a completion, right?
So did anyone have any questions on that portion or input?
No, it did feature very heavily in the third season. One scene in particular, it's pretty unforgettable. It was epic, but it was very well performed also. So.
Yeah. And it's
Are you talking about when they burned everyone in the?
No, that wasn't on the show. That's backstory.
Oh.
Yeah, that's complete news to me anyway.
Oh.
This is the song. The song itself was
Yes.
played at a
Significant occasion.
very significant.
Oh,
Poor Jennifer, she's the only one who doesn't
I'm
know.
guessing beheading. What do you think?
You wouldn't be that far off.
Well, there could be a wedding.
Might have to be a multiple.
Okay. All right. Hint, hint.
So,
Have we had any comments from the? Okay.
So did anybody have anything in particular that they wanted to discuss or that they wanted answers to? No? So has everybody here seen the season 7 trailer? Yeah. So something that featured pretty heavily in the season 7 trailer were, of course, the others, right? So we do have an answer in the show for how the Drogon's making a guest appearance. This is our dragon.
Is he thirsty?
For fire and blood, always. Yeah. So we have an answer in the show of how the others came to be. But there is no such answer in the books. We don't know. We just know that they came from the land of always winter, and they last were here about 8,000 years ago. And that's why most people don't believe they exist, because it's been so long. But there's no definitive book answer for how the others came to be. Maybe we will get one, maybe we will not, but it's not in here, it's not in here, and it's not in any of the texts.
Is the fact that it's not in all of these places addressed anywhere?
I haven't seen that significantly addressed anywhere, but I think it's one of those things that people who read the books expect there to be an answer someday. And I'm of the school of thought of maybe we never find out. Maybe they're just a force that comes from the north and we never really know. Mm-hmm. There is an answer in the show. And I kind of like the answer in the show. I don't know how it would fit in with book canon. But I think it's an interesting an interesting theory. So the answer in the show, and I don't know if this is particularly spoilery, but we'll go for it anyway. So the answer in the show is that the children of the forest actually created the others, that when the first men were infringing on the children of the forest, the children of the forest were the natives, the first men were moving in, and they were being wiped out. The children of the forest, they couldn't compete with the first men. Oh,
Question.
sure.
The others, the others sounds like Lost. The show
It
Lost.
does, yeah, it does sound like Lost. They're also called on the shows, they're mostly referred to as the White Walkers. I actually don't think they refer to them as the others on the show.
They don't. It's
The White Walkers. So they're referred to as the others in here and the White Walkers in
I
the
wonder
show.
why the difference.
I think actually I read this in my research, and the difference is because showrunners thought that if they were referring to them as the others, that viewers would get confused and think that the others means just other people rather than.
Good guess.
Yeah.
Can I mention, just while you're getting organized there, so we're referring a lot tonight to both the book and the show. We're actually going to do one Wednesday night program this summer called what, Show versus Book?
Show versus books. Yes, we are going to do a show versus books.
Do you remember
program.
which date?
I actually have it right here. So it is August 9th.
Okay, so on a Wednesday night, so just, and that will be after will that complete the whole season 7? It's only 6 weeks long, right?
No, so
Oh.
I don't think
So it'll be
season
in the
7
middle
actually
of it.
concludes. It'll be
Right.
like just about the end.
Right.
So we'll have like 1 or 2 episodes left because it's going to be a 7 episode run.
Right.
It starts on July 16th.
16.
So we'll have a couple of episodes left once. One of the things, though, that I thought was really interesting that I didn't necessarily get from the text, there are different stories about the long night, the last time when the others, or the White Walkers, came to Westeros. And one of the things that I found out in my research was that they didn't just come to Westeros. They were actually, there was like a ice bridge, and they went to Essos, and they froze down to the Rohan River, which is the same latitude as Dorne, nearly all the way to the south coast, so nearly all the way to Marine, where Dany is.
Continue.
Oh, no, that's-
We have a question after you're done.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't just a Westerosi problem; it was a worldwide ice zombie takeover, which is kind of.
I kind of missed that, I didn't get that.
A viewer from Melbourne, Australia wants to know, will Gendry reappear?
Will Gendry reappear? Well, that is something. I mean, I hope that he does. But that is something. Unfortunately, I think I would like to see him reappear because he is still out there as Robert Baratheon's blood, so potential contender for the Iron Throne. I don't know if I've seen a lot of hints in the show that he'll return in the show. I think that people in the show think he's still out there rowing,
Yeah.
right?
That's the last we saw him.
That's the last
Rowing
time we
away.
saw him, yeah.
I hope he got away.
Yeah, because he was trying to avoid Melisandre. And who wouldn't if you have King's blood, right? Because she might sacrifice you, and that would not be fun. So I hope we do see him again, but I don't feel like I've seen a lot of clues that we would that we would see him again. So forgive our
Slight
technical difficulties.
Did you get that muted? I have a question, but
Sure.
it's so basic that it's even more worser than you had. How did he come up with the name Westeros?
I don't know that actually. I don't have that in my.
No.
I think, and like I said in the last one, Essos isn't like really an official name for this continent. This is kind of a fan-made thing to just
Okay.
because this whole continent didn't have a name.
Okay.
So they just called it Essos because it was east of Westeros.
Okay.
And we don't know why. Maybe because it is the continent on the west. But they used to be 7 separate kingdoms before the Targaryens came in and united them into one Westeros.
Okay.
If we can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I had a kind of a funny thing that I discovered when I was doing this research when I pulled up this article for some other information and discovered that the Muppets are House Tully. So George R.R. Martin likes to sneak lots of real-world references into the margins of his world. And during the Civil War, known as the Dance of the Dragons, Sir Elmo Tully
No way.
he declared River Run for Rhaena, I'm probably pronouncing her name incorrectly, Targaryen, instead of Aegon Targaryen II. He lived only 49 days before dying and leaving River Run to his son, Lord Kermit.
Is that true?
Yeah,
Fun fact.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Even more fun fact.
yeah, I thought that would be something that maybe even diehards might not know. With this, that was an article that came from Tor.com. But getting back to Westeros, so what's west of Westeros is that nobody knows. So the Islanders have made repeated voyages over the massive ocean known as the Sunset Sea to find out, but nobody has gone and found any land. They've all turned back with reporting no signs of land. So what's west of Westeros is a mystery.
And what about the whole season thing? The winter, spring, summer.
Yeah, so their
So is it
seasons,
like winter up.
yeah, so
Northwest?
they have the well, I think the seasons are planet wide, but that's speculation.
Okay.
So but we do know that the winter years long, so
Right.
summers can be up to a decade and winters can be, I think they're shorter than summers, but they can still be much longer than our winters.
Okay.
I think that during the winter that was the long night. They say that, I think Old Nan says in A Game of Thrones, when she's telling Bran her scary stories while he's still bedridden, that babies would be born and grown into men without ever having seen the summer.
Like a whole generation.
A whole generation, yeah.
Huh. So I actually asked a question that you had an answer to. I'm impressed.
We're very erratic. They
Yes.
are very erratic. It's very hard for him to explain, too, because it's very hard to present something plausible. Why would the seasons be so bizarre and so irregular? How can a season last decades?
Very extreme.
A
yeah.
single winter last decades, but then go 200 years in a row with more normal winters. It's kind of bizarre.
So you don't think there's any reference to climate change in the real world?
I think there's
Some
been
thoughts.
speculation that there's
some
maybe
thought.
it's an allegory for climate
Yes,
change
yes.
or but I don't think he's ever tried to. I mean, it can't be explained with science really, so we have to kind of think of it as maybe being a supernatural thing. And like they say in one point, I think it might be a conversation, and I don't know if it's book 2 or book 3, so forgive me. But Samuel Tarley, speaking to someone else, they're speculating on whether the others bring the cold or if the cold brings the others. And so the seasons could be really based in sort of a supernatural realm versus a scientific realm. It could be that these horrible winters are brought by the onslaught of the others and the White Walkers versus by some kind of circle around the sun.
Astronomical event.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
astronomical.
Interesting.
I thought in the second book too that George Martin had made a point from several different characters to mention the red comet in the sky.
Yes.
No spoiler. And it didn't really go anywhere other than very interesting to see all the different perspectives on what they thought it was. Everybody thought it meant that their own god was the right one.
Right.
Melisandre said it's proof. The red woman, the red priestess said that's proof that the red god is the one. And Dany had a completely different perspective. She was convinced it meant something completely different, that fire and blood
Yeah.
was, so it was a sign for her. And other people throughout Westeros felt that it was something completely different. It didn't explain the climate, though, and these seasons, these crazy seasons.
Right, and I think when we talk, maybe in about a month, when we do our speculation and prognostication, we'll be talking about this comment again, because I've seen, or I think I might have it in here, it's somewhere, it's supposed to be a sign of the coming of Azor Ahai. So that'll be something we look into probably in a month from now, because there is speculation. I might not have brought that in with me. because I wasn't expecting to need it. Okay. But there is speculation that it has something to do with the coming of the prince who was promised. So, speaking of the prince who was promised,
Nice segue.
Into it.
who wants to talk about Rhaegar?
Sitting across
Rhaegar's
from
great.
Who's Rhaegar?
Okay, so Rhaegar. Rhaegar is Daenerys' brother.
Okay.
So
You mean
Rhaegar.
the mean one at the beginning?
No, that's Viserion.
Oh,
so,
Viserion,
So
okay.
Rhaegar is their older brother who's dead at the beginning of
Okay.
the series.
Okay.
So Rhaegar is the one who Robert says has kidnapped his love Lyanna and took her away to the Tower of Dorian Dorne, and that's why Robert was hates all the Targaryens and wants to wipe them out. Is part because of this. It's part to keep his throne secure, but it's partly because he hates the Targaryens because he thinks that Rhaegar took the woman he loved.
Right.
But Rhaegar is a very interesting character, and he's a character who is dead at the beginning of book one. Yet he looms large over the whole story. Even after 5 books, I feel like I'm still seeing a lot about Rhaegar. So Rhaegar Targaryen was the eldest son of King Aerys Targaryen II and his sister wife Rhaella. So for those who don't know, the Targaryens used to marry within themselves to keep their bloodline pure. They were the only surviving family of the Doom of Old Valyria, or they're the most prominent surviving family of the Doom of Old Valyria. There are some other minor families that I think maybe escaped to somewhere on Essos, but they are the most prominent family that survived the Doom, and they marry within their own bloodline to keep the bloodlines pure. So some of the traits, the Valyrian traits that the Targaryens have are the light kind of silver gold hair, the dark sort of purple indigo eyes, and you see that a lot throughout the generations of Targaryens just because there wasn't a lot of variation in the gene pool. So that's why Rhaegar is the son of King Aerys II Targaryen and his sister Rhaella. So Rhaegar was tall and beautiful with the dark indigo eyes and silver hair of House Targaryen. He wore it very long. He made a very dashing figure in his black armor that was encrusted with rubies, the 3-headed dragon, ruby dragon of the House Targaryen. He was known to be exceedingly intelligent and excelled at anything he put his mind to. He was considered a musician and a very skilled knight. He was also very loved by the people. I think it was, I don't know if it was the tourney at Harrenhal or another tourney. He arrived and received more applause than his father or than Tywin, who was a well-known figure in by far they cheered for him more than they cheered for anybody else. It would be like Big Poppy walking into the stadium at Fenway, right? Those kinds of cheers. He was a
Or
popular
LeBron
guy.
James.
Well, I guess it depends on where you're from. Here in Massachusetts.
Some Targaryen dragon in there. I got it.
It was believed that it seems to be a popular opinion that Rhaegar was a pretty good guy. That he was very well liked. Sir Barristan Selmy, who is a knight of the King's Guard, he served 3 kings. And he is said to have believed that Rhaegar would have been a better king than any of them. And in later books, Daenerys Targaryen is compared to Rhaegar as a compliment. So Rhaegar had a pretty good reputation.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me one moment. So Rhaegar was born at Summerhall, and he was born there. Summerhall is a lesser Targaryen stronghold. So it is a castle in the Stormlands. It was a lightly fortified castle that was used by Targaryen as kind of like a summer cottage. You think about those, the mansions in Newport, how they would use those as, that's kind of like what Summerhall is for the Targaryens. And it was destroyed in a huge fire on the same day that Rhaegar was born. The tragedy at Summerhall, diverting myself a little bit, but, so Egg, King Aegon, who is Egg from the Dunk and Egg stories, he was trying to hatch dragon eggs, and it was always said that dragon eggs would hatch from fire,
Right.
and they accidentally burned down Summerhall, and it killed the king. It killed
Oh.
his king's guard. It killed the Lord Commander of his king's guard. It killed some of his children, and it was a huge tragedy. But it actually happened on the day that Rhaegar was born, and he was born in Summerhall. So he considers himself someone born of tragedy, or
Well, like
born
the
of
Phoenix.
yeah. So as a child, he read everything he could get his hands on. He was very scholarly. He was not somebody that was anticipated to become a great warrior. He was someone who was just more dedicated to his books. I have to become a great warrior, so I need a sword, I need equipment, because I'm going to be a great knight. He read something that changed his mind. And while I don't think it's necessarily laid out in the text exactly that he read the prophecy of the prince that was promised, it's pretty much something that everybody believes, is that he read the prophecy of the prince that was promised. So let's divert again.
This is all not in the book.
This is so I think stuff that's hinted at in the book that's
Yeah.
fleshed out in other sources,
By Martin?
or by
Okay,
Martin.
all right.
This is official.
This is official. This is canon.
Yes.
So
Amazing to me.
the prince that was promised is a prophesied leader or savior of sorts, and the prince is part of an ancient prophecy which foretells the coming of a hero who will deliver the world from darkness. A bleeding star, which is maybe the comet, is supposed to herald the coming of the prince. The prince is said to have a song, and that song is the song of ice and fire. So it was said he would be born amidst salt and smoke beneath a bleeding star. So it's believed that Rhaegar initially thought that he was going to be the prince who was promised, but then later believed it was his firstborn son, Aegon. I said firstborn son.
Yes.
Okay. Because he has a daughter, Rhaella, who he did not believe, but the dragon must have 3 heads, so I'm sure Rhaella had a part in that prophecy too. So
He took over the dragon.
he has a
Cat
presence.
looks at him.
Yeah, he has a presence. So Rhaegar often liked to visit the ruins of Summerhall, and he, because he was a musician, he would bring his harp with him, and he would compose music while he visited Summerhall. And it said that his songs were so beautiful that it made all the ladies who heard them weep. So Rhaegar, even though he was a very private and sort of bookish kind of guy, he did win the affections, the eye of one of the ladies that we all know and love, Ms. Cersei Lannister. She was in love with Rhaegar, and she was trying to find a way to get to marry him. And her father did offer Cersei to Rhaegar via his father, King Aerys, and King Aerys said, no thank you. Now Cersei actually would have been a pretty good match, because what they had looked for a Valyrian wife for Rhaegar to marry, as Rhaegar didn't have, as of yet, any sisters. He did have, Daenerys wouldn't be born for about 18 years after Rhaegar came of age, and Daenerys was not there yet. So they did go to Essos and look for a Valyrian wife, and there was no Valyrian wife to be found. And Cersei Lannister would have been a good match. She came from one of the richest, or the richest actually, house in Westeros.
It's not funny.
And her father was then the Hand of the King. No, he got a flat no, although there were some tensions between Tywin and Aerys at the time, and I think Aerys maybe hoped to have, Tywin had hoped to kind of bridge those a little bit with the offering of his daughter, who was also reported to be extremely beautiful, and got a flat no. So Rhaegar ended up marrying Elia of Dorne. And Elia Martell, you don't get to meet the Martell family in a Game of Thrones, but they're fun. Maybe if you continue with the series. I'm always encouraging her to continue.
Well, I just don't want to see the show until I finish reading the book, because I'm loving reading it.
I'm glad you're enjoying it, Jennifer. I wasn't sure at first, and I'm excited that you're enjoying it. So Rhaegar did marry the Princess Elia, and at this point, Aerys was kind of descending, or he maybe had always been, but at this point he was descending into madness a little bit more rapidly than he had been in the past. And his relationship with his son Rhaegar started to strain a lot. He began to get kind of suspicious of Rhaegar, and why did everybody love Rhaegar? And
Jealous.
Yep, jealous. Yep, and
This is the father.
The father.
So popular.
Yeah,
The father
The Mad King Aerys.
was jealous of his son.
Yes.
Because Rhaegar was supremely popular. Everybody adored him, and he was just
And
everything.
this wasn't the weak king.
No,
Okay.
no, that was
Okay.
that was the title.
Right.
Yeah. Not that Aerys was a strong king, because he was a crazy king. So he was the one, I think we talked about it last week, where we talked about how Aerys had descended into madness at the point and become so paranoid that he wouldn't cut his hair or clip his nails. So whenever his liege lords would see him, and he had like these, those monstrous fingernails and the hair that was so scraggly. I don't know if we talked about it first. Just I read it, so I remember. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So this is what happens.
Okay.
He descended into madness, and he looked like he descended into madness. So. It wasn't a good time. It wasn't a good time for Aerys. He was having a hard time.
But can I ask, since Tom is here and we're showing the movie The Madness of King George,
Right.
Is that tomorrow?
July 5th.
July 5th. So
Yes.
in 2 weeks, so is it similar story in terms of the descent into madness?
Actually, it probably is kind of similar.
So anyone who wants to see the movie,
George was chemically, it was a chemical thing.
meaning bipolar.
King George, no, it
Was
was
someone
some kind-
poisoned him?
It was a chemical that he was ingesting. He didn't know
Oh, was it mercury? Doesn't mercury make you crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, just to keep the audience
good
aware
plug.
that we're going to have the movie on July 5th
Yeah.
at 10:30 in the morning.
it. Right?
Our Royal Cinema.
No, 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
2
Sorry.
p.m.
2 p.m. on July 5th. The Madness of King George.
And I've seen that movie, and it is kind of somewhat similar.
Who plays the part? Is that Rush?
Nigel Hawthorne.
Nigel Hawthorne.
Helen Mirren is the queen.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Hi. Welcome. Have a seat.
So Rhaegar and his father not getting along. Rhaegar and Elia had a son they named Aegon, which I already said, I'm losing my place. But Elia had very delicate health, and due to her delicate health, she was bedridden for half a year after giving birth to her first child, her daughter, and nearly died giving birth to Aegon. And the Maesters told Rhaegar that Elia would not have another child.
If anyone wants any refreshments, please feel free.
So when Lord Tywin resigned as the Hand of the King, Aerys really...
He stepped down voluntarily?
Tywin resigned. He took himself out of the... I don't think Aerys was necessarily like an easy man to work for.
Right. Yeah.
and Aerys was getting increasingly paranoid, and the main subject of his paranoia at the time was Tywin, because Tywin, while not as popular as Rhaegar at that time, was still somewhat popular, and he had more money than anybody else in the realm. So he was very paranoid when it came to Tywin. Tywin resigned, got himself out of the court. I think he left King's Landing altogether, and the new focus of Aerys' mistrust and paranoia became Rhaegar. There were growing tension between those who were loyal to the king and those who were loyal to the prince. So much so that Maester Pycelle believed that they would be looking at it as they were on the brink of maybe having a civil war break out, another Dance of the Dragons, which was a civil war between Targaryens a few centuries before. Pycelle was afraid that they were on the brink of another civil war, and actually wrote to the Citadel and claiming that he feared that this was about to happen.
So is that what happens when you have a crazy ruler? A
Civil
ruler descending into
You descend into,
crazy,
you just have a civil war.
potentially? It's
It's one of many outcomes that could come from such a
Yeah.
situation. So around this time, there was a tourney at Harrenhal, where been suggested that the tourney was secretly arranged by Rhaegar himself as a way to kind of have secret meetings with some of the more powerful lords in Westeros. That was never proven. It's speculated about by different characters in the text, but Lord Walter who hosted this tourney at Harrenhal, was not a wealthy man, and he could not have put up the winnings from his own coffers. So was it Rhaegar? Was it maybe Tywin? Was it maybe somebody else? Who knows? But there's a lot of speculation about that. But because Lord Varys alerted Aerys II to the possibility of Rhaegar trying to meet with different lords and gain their devotion, Aerys decided to attend this tourney. So of course he attended Harrenhal with his fingernails all grown out and his beard and scraggly, and it didn't inspire a lot of confidence in the men who were looking to him to lead. He didn't do himself many favors by going out. So, but yeah, I mean, I think when you get to the point where you're so paranoid you won't let scissors or nail clippers come near you because they have sharp edges, that's maybe when you want to stay home, you know. But Aerys went out. He ventured out to Harrenhal, and Rhaegar did very well at the tourney of Harrenhal, and he ended up being the victor to the tourney. And when he won, he crowned Lyanna Stark as the Queen of Love and Beauty, and instead of his wife, who was there as well, and he passed her over and gave the crown to Lyanna Stark. And Ned Stark refers to that moment as the moment when all the smiles died. And the year after that, Rhaegar seemingly kidnapped Lyanna for reasons unknown, and that's the act that ultimately did trigger Robert's rebellion, and brought on the downfall of the Targaryen dynasty. Because once he took Lyanna, the Starks rose up against him, the Baratheons rose up against him, the Arryns rose up against him, and then eventually the whole realm rose up against the Targaryens. And Rhaegar met his end at the Trident, where he and Lord Robert Baratheon had one-on-one combat, and Robert Baratheon struck Rhaegar in the chest with his mighty warhammer, causing rubies to spill into the ford. It's now called the Ruby Ford because everybody was scrambling to try to pick up the rubies after Rhaegar died, so they could have a
Piece of him.
little piece. Yeah. And that is the story of Rhaegar.
That really helps the beginning with Daenerys
Yes.
and her brother.
Yeah, so during this war, Daenerys and her brother were on Dragonstone, which is I'll have your map. So Dragonstone is here. They were being kept here on the edge of the continent of Westeros. And Daenerys was born still on Dragonstone. Her mother didn't survive her birth.
Right.
And she and Viserys were taken by a man loyal to the Targaryens to the continent of Essos into Pentos, and they survived there. Daenerys was only an infant; she was a newborn.
But that's not where they start. Where it started.
They do start in Pentos because that's where she marries Khal Drogo in the beginning of book
and
one.
that's why they're on the Dothraki.
Yeah, and then they go west on the Dothraki Sea.
How about that? I actually knew that. But just the way you explained Reagan, that makes sense. In terms of where they were starting from and why Viserys.
Yeah,
Because it hates
Yeah, he's very bitter
Right.
because he should be king,
Right.
because in the line of succession
Right.
it would have been him after Rhaegar. So
Right.
he feels very strongly that Westeros is his kingdom.
But how can they say that they don't understand why Rhaegar took?
Well, he
Because clearly he was enamored by her.
he was enamored by her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he took her for reasons of lust. That's what's speculated. And I think in the beginning of this book we hear Robert claiming repeatedly that Rhaegar raped Lyanna, and he held her for quite some time.
And I know she's entombed, but is she? Did you know how she was killed?
We know she died on a bed of blood. We don't know.
If it was like
We don't have book confirmed reasons of the exact circumstances of her death. There has been a lot of speculation throughout the fandom for many years of how Lyanna died, what were the exact circumstances of her death. So they were kept in the Tower of Joy in Dorne. That's where Lyanna and Rhaegar had their little love nest.
Right.
They were in the Tower of Joy.
But we don't know if did she want him?
Well, we don't know that because
Okay.
Lyanna's not with us anymore to tell us her side of the story.
Okay.
We do know that Ned saw his sister before she died.
Mm-hmm.
Ned went to the Tower of Joy to try to liberate Lyanna, and when he got there, he found the tower guarded by 2 of the King's Guard, maybe 3 of the King's Guard? 3 of the King's Guard, but including Sir Arthur Dayne, who was
That's right.
supposedly the most incredible warrior of his time. But Sir Arthur Dayne fell in combat with Ned, and Ned made it up to the Tower of Joy to see his sister right before she died. And while she was lying on her bed of blood, that's what Ned refers to it as, she asked him for a promise, and Ned never says in this book what that promise was, but she begged him to keep that promise to her, and then she passed away.
So could she have been in childbirth?
Yes.
This is someone who knows nothing. And good.
We'll be talking about
explaining things
we
very
will be
well.
talking more about that in a month.
Hold that thought, Jennifer. Okie dokie. I'll forget it in a month.
Well, maybe it was ambitious of me to try to keep this one spoiler free. I don't know.
No. I think you're doing great, Kate. So the Tower of Joy, so that is...
That's in Dorne. So you see
Okay.
this down here?
Yes.
It's down here in this region.
Okay.
I don't know the was his wife.
That were wiped out
So the Martells weren't wiped out.
later on.
No, the Martells are still in Dorne. Elia was killed.
Oh, I thought, who was the whole group who died in the fire and the underneath the
That were the
rain?
Castameres. The reign
Castamere.
of Castamere.
Right?
Yeah, the reigns of
Yeah,
Castamere.
got
Yeah. Different time period.
Got it?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Does anyone have any question at this point?
I mean, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
A lot.
And one of the things that, as I was preparing this, and I had told Scott that I listen to podcasts, we did mention those last week. We mentioned Radio Westeros and a History of Westeros, that they do hour and a half long, 2 hour long episodes on like just Rhaegar, or just there's so much information to be found in the text if you figure that each book is nearly 1,000 pages long, and then not only do we have that, but we have this.
So
There's a
does
lot of
anyone here
information.
listen to those podcasts?
I do.
Do you? Do you like join in on the podcast?
I don't join in, no. I'm actually a supporter of them on Patreon too.
What is Patreon?
Patreon is a place where artists, performers can go, and if you can support them if you want. Might not be able to afford much, but you can
Right.
afford a couple of bucks a month, whatever.
Is that like Kickstarter type
So
thing?
not so different than that.
Okay.
Sort of like that, but it's
Okay.
a kind of a renewable thing every month or so. Kind of whatever way you want, really. It's a way for you to become a patron of the artists and the performers that you kind of want to give a little, you think deserve. They do good work. These
That's
podcasters, they do good work.
Okay.
I got hours and hours of entertainment from both of them. So I want to I like that. So I shoot a
Okay.
little money their way
Okay.
every month through Patreon.
Patreon.
I'm a Patreon supporter.
So anyone can go on to that?
Yes,
Okay.
anybody can go on and help them out if you like. It's not just podcasts either. It's they do a lot of good. It kind of helps promote a lot of people you might not otherwise be able to help. One of the History of Westeros podcast is based in Atlanta, so I don't know anybody in Atlanta I would never have heard of,
Right.
if not for actually George Martin ultimately for this whole story. But I think they do a really good job. They really go in depth with all 5 books, all of the side stories, all of the lore, a lot of the theories and the the speculation. It's a little bit hard to talk about a lot of it without spoilers.
Right, right.
But it's very, very dense,
Right.
very thick. It all makes sense. It all is very, very tight.
So they
done.
pick a subject like you did,
Yeah.
and they spend the whole podcast on that.
Yeah.
And then do people comment during it?
But
Go
they're-
ahead, Ann.
Well, they're rogue though. They don't have anything to do.
No,
with
they're not. They're not
Martin.
like official
Right.
resources, but they are going off of the text.
Totally get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not like from Martin or
Right.
Martin or. But yeah, they are excellent. If you're interested in delving deeply into any subject, say if they have really good episodes where
Oh, so you can go back.
you
and listen to
can
all
go
of
back and
them.
listen to all of them. You can go
Right.
into the iTunes podcast app and find all the back episodes. They're all there for you to download. I actually listened to the one about Joffrey to prep for last week's discussion, and I listened to the one about Robert Baratheon. This is on Radio Westeros. I listened to the one about Robert Baratheon to prep for that discussion too. So I find them to be a very valuable resource.
Just curious, in the audience that's watching us on Facebook, is anyone, are any of those people familiar with the podcast? See if someone, I don't know if you type something in or I don't know. Okay. Did you have any questions down at the other end of the table? Anything that's fascinating to you?
Just more about the fallout between Tywin and Aerys II. I read a little bit of the World of Ice and Fire, so I know they clashed a bit towards the end there. I also remember there was something with Jaime joining the Kingsguard.
Yes.
How that slighted Tywin somehow.
Okay, yeah. So there is more backstory there. So it goes back a little bit further even than Jaime joining the Kingsguard because Aerys wanted Joanna Lannister. Tywin, for all that on the show, he's seems like a very heartless person. He was very much in love with his wife, and it's said by one of Jaime Lannister's aunts, and I can't remember her name right now, but it said that Tywin ruled the realm, which he did as hand, but Joanna ruled Tywin. So that did not help their relationship. So that's part of why the backstory between why Tywin and Aerys were beginning to butt heads. But yes, Jaime joining the Kingsguard was a big part of it too, because Jaime. Oh, sorry,
No.
Okay. Jaime was Tywin's heir, and he had his hopes for Casterly Rock pinned on Jaime. And joining the Kingsguard is almost like taking the black. You can have no wives, you shouldn't father any children or anything like that. So he couldn't have had any legitimate children to leave the Rock to. So that took Jaime out of the running as Tywin's heir and made Tyrion Tywin's heir. And I think most of us know how Tywin felt about Tyrion. And you probably gleaned that from the way that Tyrion speaks of his father. At one point, he says to Jon Snow, all dwarfs are bastards in their father's eyes.
Right.
Tywin was not fond of Tyrion. He blamed Tyrion for Joanna's death because Joanna died giving birth to him. And he felt like Aerys letting Jaime join the Kingsguard was something done intentionally to kind of stick it to Tywin. And of course, Jaime only wanted to join the Kingsguard because Cersei was at court, because Tywin had taken her to court so that she could be seen by Rhaegar. And then after Jaime joined the Kingsguard, Tywin took Cersei and went back to the Rock, and Jaime was left at King's Landing with no Cersei. So, their relationship was pretty fraught. Yeah, and I think at one point Tywin was a trusted advisor, but it didn't last.
Another thing that fuels that distrust of Tywin from the Mad King was that Tywin was an awesome administrator. Mm-hmm. If the economy of Westeros wasn't doing so well, it might have been a different story, but the economy was doing great under Tywin's leadership. Now, he was the hand of the king. He wasn't the king, but he was the administrator. He was the guy on the front line making all the right decisions. The king was in the background. He was the king, it's true, but Tywin was the reason for
Getting all the credit.
And everybody was heaping credit his way, and that was also a slight towards the Mad King. It really kind of upset him. Everybody loves Tywin. You know? And that was one of the things that also contributed to his descent into distrust of Tywin. Tywin was a threat, and he was apparently attracted to Tywin's wife also. So that's one of the things that also contributed exactly.
So how did the Starks get into the rebellion, and what was their dispute with?
Because their
their sister.
Their sister, yeah. Or at that time, it was Lord Rickard Stark? Rickard, right? Rickard Stark. It's hard to keep all these people. But at that time, Lord Rickard Stark was still alive. Ned was not the heir to Winterfell. Ned was a second son. His brother Brandon was actually supposed to marry Catelyn Tully.
Yes.
Yes. And then Lyanna was abducted, and it ruined everybody's plans. and Brandon went to King's Landing and was, I believe, roasted alive in his armor. Yeah, because part of Aerys' madness was that he liked to use wildfire to set people ablaze, which is not a good hobby or execution method. So Rickard and Brandon were both taken out during that, and Ned became the heir to Winterfell and then married Catelyn Tully and his brother Steed. So that's how the Starks got wrapped up in that rebellion. They also, I think Lord Aerys actually, at one point, because Robert and Ned were both being fostered at the Eyrie under Jon Arryn, Aerys actually demanded their be released to him at one point, and rather than give up Robert and Ned, that's when Jon Arryn joined the fight, so that that he didn't have to give up his wards and to certain death.
Right.
There's a lot of backstory, and a lot of it is a lot of danger, a lot of death, a lot of maybe bad people in power making bad decisions.
Did you want to talk about this?
So I had printed this out in case we wanted to talk about the Blackfyre Rebellion.
When did that take place?
Okay, so the Blackfyre Rebellion actually isn't that far away from what we are from the start of this. It's a few generations removed. So
prior to the book.
Yeah, prior to the book. So Aerys the Mad King was the son of Jaehaerys, who was the son of Aegon, who's Egg from Dunk and Egg, the one who accidentally set fire to the Summer Hall trying to hatch dragon eggs, and Aegon is the, I want to say, great nephew of Aegon the Unworthy, Aegon IV the Unworthy, who...
You're working your way up this way.
We're working our way up diagonally. So Aegon IV the Unworthy, who... so let's say that the beginning of the book was about 296. Aegon IV was in power, it was about 184. So it was about 100 years earlier than the start of the book. So not that far away.
Yeah.
So Aegon was a king that didn't have a lot of respect. He was known to be gluttonous in all of his appetites. So he was obese because he just ate everything. And he was also fathered a lot of illegitimate children. And he, on his deathbed, he legitimized all of his bastards. So he had a son whom he did not get along with very well, who was his legitimate son. And that was Daron too, who you can see under there, it says Daron the Good, but it also says Daron the False Born, because there were rumors spread that he was maybe not really Aegon's son. And those rumors were spread by those who were loyal to the Blackfires. If you see over here, Daemon Blackfire over here, he was like the golden child. He was the one that Aegon loved the most. He was an illegitimate. I don't know if I think it was his Aegon's child with his cousin. It's hard to keep all these Targaryens straight. Yeah, his cousin, Diana. So when he legitimized his sons, it presented a danger to the realm, because lots of people liked Daemon, and they didn't trust Daron, because Daron was focused on keeping a united Westeros with Dorne, and Dorne had been recently acquired by Daron. During the original conquer of Westeros, they did not conquer all 7 of the kingdoms. They only conquered 6. They never, even with the dragons and all of the Targaryen might, they weren't able to conquer Dorne. Dorne didn't come in until Daron brought them in, and he married Mariah of Dorne, which bucked the Targaryen custom of marrying within their bloodline. And a lot of people, there were some prejudices against Dorne, so they felt like they couldn't trust Daron, because Daron had married a Dornish woman, and because he was focused on unifying Westeros. So they turned to Daemon, and Daemon was the Blackfire. And eventually, the realm did break out into civil war if you support the Blackfires or you support so it was about, do you support the black or the red? So we have, I don't have a Targaryen pin here, but the Targaryen pin is she has one. Thank you. So see how the Targaryen shield is the red dragon on the black background. The Blackfire shield, they inverted it. So it was the black dragon on the red background. So up for years, decades after these wars were fought, if you would say that you supported the black dragon or you supported the red dragon, it had factions across the nation, and people were looked at a certain way for supporting one or the other. So thank you.
So can we mention something about these buttons?
I grabbed it on the way out.
So the staff was so inspired. We've made these ourselves, and they're downstairs. If you do come into the library and you want to pick one, we're encouraging people to pick their favorite family.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so we only made 4 because we did the most prominent families in a Game of Thrones. So we have we have the Starks, the Targaryens, the Baratheons, and the Lannisters.
Yes.
And you can choose your house, who you want to pledge your loyalty to.
Yes.
We did just refill the Starks because we had run out. So if we're low on dragons, we'll get Targaryens out there.
Okay.
So yeah, that was the Blackfire Rebellion. There was more than one, though. It went through several rounds of rebellions. Daron eventually had many children. Daemon Blackfire had many children. It doesn't show up on this particular family tree, but his children kept the rebellion of the Blackfires going. Oh,
no, just quickly before we
Sure.
go too far.
Right.
Where does the name Blackfire come from?
So okay, the name Blackfire. That's a great question because I skipped something. So there was a famous sword from Aegon the Conqueror that was called Blackfire, and it was passed down from Targaryen king to Targaryen king to Targaryen king. Aerys, when he knighted his illegitimate son Daemon, he used the Blackfire sword to do it, and then made a gift of the sword to his illegitimate son instead of passing it on to his legitimate son. So that's another part of the reason why people felt inclined to rise up against Darren, because they felt like here was Aerys legitimizing his lineage through his. Sure.
We have a question from Chicago. Melanie says, and where is Blackfire now?
Where I don't know where Blackfire is now, but that's a great question, and I will look that up for you right now.
While you're looking that up, I wanted to just mention to folks, so most of you know we've posted this flyer around town, around Plymouth, and we're encouraging people, and you can correct me if I'm saying this wrong, to go around town, find where we've posted these and take a selfie with it, and then submit it to us. We're giving prizes for people who are actually entering in, and there is a hashtag PPLGOT 2017, and we have we're either using Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. So, and you can always call, ask the reference desk, how can you participate, and can you give some hints as to where we have some of these dragons?
I could give some hints. I'm not feeling very clever at the moment, but I can tell you that if you go to Moe's in
Mexican
Place,
in Colony Place,
there is a dragon there. And
Okay.
we love them at Moe's. They post with Drogon. We will post those pictures for you because they're great. There's Starbucks
He's on tour
coffee.
as well.
Yep.
Huh?
If you like coffee,
Yeah.
it's Starbucks. We also
Yeah.
have some great pictures from Starbucks, which we'll post, and we have Rockland Trust. I believe we have photographs from Rockland Trust too. So a lot of establishments have had the opportunity to pose with Drogon. The Visitor Center in Plymouth. There's a poster at Jolly Bean. They're basically all over town. So if you explore Plymouth, you will find them.
and just as a note to our children's programming this summer, which is called Building a Better World, we have a map here in the main library by the children's room. It shows where all the lobster artwork is, and we're also encouraging people to go around town and pose with their lobster, and we're posting those on Facebook. So,
Or even just your favorite spot in Plymouth.
your favorite spot in Plymouth. Thank you.
So back to the question we had online. So Daemon Blackfire did wield the sword during the first Blackfire rebellion, and the sword did pass on to Aemon Blackfire briefly, and then Daemon's half-brother, Aegar Rivers, known as Bittersteel, attempted to rally the rebels with Blackfire. He attempted to claim his legitimacy by wielding the sword, and Bittersteel withdrew after dueling with another half-brother, Brendan Rivers, called Bloodraven. And when Daemon and his twin sons died dead at the Redgrass Field, Bittersteel took Blackfire with him in exile to the Free Cities, where he eventually founded the sellsword company, the Golden Company. And Aegar refused to give the Valyrian steel to Daemon to Blackfire in the failed second Blackfire rebellion attempt. The sword's current whereabouts are unknown. But since we have here a mention of the Golden Company, I wouldn't be surprised if we see this sword again.
Wow.
Because we do see the Golden Company reemerge in Book 5.
So we're coming near the end of our time, and you've done a fabulous job, as well as everyone participating. I think it's so much fun. Did anyone here have any last discussion questions? Did we cover a good amount?
Yeah.
Something to think about? Kate, did you have some last?
No, I don't have anything to say in closing except that we are going to have an opportunity to meet again to talk about the second part of A Game of Thrones. This is a meaty part of the book, and even if you've just watched the show, even if you haven't read the book, I encourage you to attend because there's a lot to discuss in this part.
Is there a program before that one?
Our next discussion is part 2, and I believe that's on July 12th. So,
I better get cracking.
You better get cracking, Jennifer. But it's the first season of the show is very faithful to the first book. So if you're a show watcher and you'd like to join us, please feel free. There's a lot to discuss. And then after that, the show does premiere on July 16th.
Do you have any idea how many hours of television viewing it has so far, all of the episodes?
Well, are they an hour long?
They're about an hour long each, and there's about 60 episodes, so it's probably, some of them run a little short, some of them run a little long.
Okay.
A lot of stuff to do, but.
So,
Can I show this as to let people know? Okay, so just as a quick, we do have the artist, Scott Kettle. I'm so sorry, Scott. Okay, so this is a drawing a piece of artwork that Scott did for one of our local patrons who we do a lot of chess with, Bill Petrillo. And we are going to have a program with Scott on Wednesday, July 26th here at the library. This is one where if you're in Chicago or Melbourne, you might not be able to join us. Well, you can book tickets. But we'll have this. We're going to have a collection of some of Scott's artwork. He is a fantasy artist, as well as some memorabilia and artifacts. So it'll be a fun night.
It'll be fun.
It was not included in this schedule, so please mark that down on your schedule. So July 26th at 7 p.m. out of Bellevue.
Right.
And just so the season premiere for season 7 is July 16th. So we will be getting again that week on that Wednesday to talk about speculation and prognostication, where we're going to talk about all the theories, the fan theories, and we're also going to talk about what we might think will happen based on the season 7 premiere. So that should be a fun time to get together. And
So you're looking for the spelling? Scott Kettle, right?
Yes.
and are you planning to get together with everybody immediately after the showing, the airing of the episode of the
So
7th?
we are getting together the Wednesday after, but we don't have plans right now to get together on the Monday after the airing or anything like
But
that.
the Wednesday after part of the discussion can be.
Absolutely. We will absolutely dedicate part of our
Absolutely.
discussion to the season 7
We
premiere.
don't spoil too much though for Jen.
I think we're going to end up spoiling for Jen anyway,
I know, I'm
though.
60 hours.
But I have to read Victoria. I have to read Victoria in between. Anyhow, it's all good.
There's a lot less characters in Victoria. Believe me. Smaller family tree, yeah.
So wonderful. Thank you, Kate Gomes,
Well
Gina
done.
Martin,
Thank you.
and Thank you for everyone who came. Great. So we're signing off.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Ann
Thank you
Clark
for
says
joining
hello.
us.
Ann Clark.
Thank you, Ann Clark.
Bye, Ann.
From Arizona.
We miss you. Wow.
A lot of long distance
It's still,
viewers, that's nice.
it's
Another cookie before you
is it
leave,
shut
though.
off yet, Tom?
It's still red, so.
Yeah, it's still red, so we're still, okay.
Oh.
So please, we do have some, if you want to take a cookie or some soda, please feel free. And on to the next thing, huh? Scott, do you have a website? I'm thinking I should have a little bio. I should have a little bio. Did we do that?
Yeah, I should. I don't know.
So, we have an email, but if you want
Could
to
you send me just,
sign up,
can you
we'll give
email
you
me
one.
just
Absolutely.
like 3 lines?
Absolutely.
And then I can put that
Is there any material?
together so I can get that press release.
Sure.
That's the type of thing that I'll
Okay.
bang out in the middle of the
Yeah,
night.
there's a
but
whole
I don't
chapter of
know.
them in this book.
You know what I find
So I need to
funny?
keep
Is I
mine,
found
I did
afterwards.
my copy, but I do have
that,
another copy of that downstairs.
This
and
is the
there's a
Black
whole
Fire.
Yes.
detailed chapter
It's in
about
here?
children of the
This
forest
is,
in that.
Kate,
you know
That's
the,
very cool.
the pin?
yes,
Kate had pointed out that the Targaryen
yeah.
sigil is black
Yeah,
Yes.
great.
with the
So,
red.
but yeah, they're
Dragon.
Yes.
I think they're going to come
And
into
the
play
Black
in
Fire Rebellion.
one of our
Yes.
future discussions, probably the one
Took the